Of course, I'm not seeing anything too clearly right now, am I? I mean, how could I, after 21 years of ironing your shirts and typing your papers and smiling incessantly at faculty teas and wheeling magazines around the hospitals, performing miracles with Star-Kissed tuna, cheering an ever-changing blur of students through their baseball, their basketball, their hockey, their basketball, and their baseball, and their hockey, and their football, and their basketball. Season after season, nothing ever changes. And then suddenly, you're Baroque, and I'm apparently early American.
Shirley MacLaine and Anthony Hopkins going through a midlife crisis and a change of seasons. That's one of the new holiday movies we'll be reviewing on this edition of Sneak Previews. Two critics talking about the new movies in town. And across the aisle from me is Gene Siskel, the film critic of the Chicago Tribune.
And this is Roger Ebert, film critic of the Chicago Sun-Times. Now, in addition to A Change of Seasons, which includes the second screen appearance by Bo Derekand, our holiday movie list continues with
Somebody Killed Her Husband, which is Farrah Fawcett Major's feature film debut. We'll also be taking a look at Farrah Fawcett Majors in Sunburn.
Farrah Fawcett and the space adventure Saturn 3, but now Roger begins with 10.
And I might begin with a word of explanation about that title. You remember how in high school we used to ask each other how a girl rated on a scale of 1 to 10?
Mm-hmm.
Well, Blake Edwards' new comedy 10 stars the British comedian Dudley Moore, who's minding his own business one day, driving down the street, when suddenly he sees the most beautiful girl in the world in the next car. Now, she's so beautiful that on a scale of 1 to 10, she rates an 11. A couple of problems, though. One little problem is that the girl is on her way to the church to get married. The other little problem is that Dudley Moore already has a long-standing relationship with Julie Andrews, who's an island of sanity in his otherwise chaotic life.
Oh.
Dad! Oh! God! Oh! Ow!
Hey, I see him. What's he doing?
Come on, George.
Did you ever have one of those days? Well, anyway, Dudley Moore forgets about Julie Andrews for the time being, and he concentrates his energies on following the most beautiful girl in the world, and he finds her, too. Through an amazing series of coincidences, they both wind up at the same expensive resort in Mexico, where Moore finds the sand a little hot for his feet.
Oh. Sorry.
I think I'll go out and get a surfboard. Damn! Damn! Ow!
That was Bo Derek as the inspiration for all of Dudley Moore's fantasies, and there are a lot of fantasies in Tin, which I think is one of the best comedies of the year, a movie that moves so confidently between moods that it always seems one step ahead of us. It's very funny, yes, I think it's the funniest movie ever directed by Blake Edwards, and he's made all of the Pink Panther comedies, but it has a lot of truth, too, about love and human nature in it. One of the funny things about it is that you sit there for 2 hours laughing, and then at the end of the film you think, this has been kind of a subtle performance. There's a lot of poignancy in this movie.
Yeah, I think it's actually less of a comedy. I mean, that rolling down the hill didn't make me laugh. I'm intrigued by this guy's predicament. He's about 42 years old. He has a birthday party. That freaks him out. He has sort of a change of life. Call it male menopause if you want. He's worried about if he's getting everything that he can, and then he sees this unattainable object, and that sets up a whole conflict with him trying to be an adolescent, grabbing at this unreachable girl, and also trying to be an adult and dealing with Julie Andrews. The guy has not grown up. It's a real good, serious investigation of what it's like to be an adolescent, what it's like to be an adult. I found it an intriguing
It's a good movie, and really one of the things that makes it good, I think, is that performance by Dudley Moore. Here's a guy who in real life, I think, is 44 years old. He's a British comedian. He's been around for a long time as he's been part of a comedy team with Peter Cook and Dudley Moore, but we've never seen him in a lead before. And he's got to do a lot of acting in this film. There are so many different moods and kinds of scenes that he has to get into. And I was really carried along. I cared about him. I think Dudley Moore is a star in this movie.
Yeah, I didn't know whether he was going to end up with Julie Andrews or not. And I must say, I don't know whether he should have or whether he should have still gone after that girl. The girl's not just she looks gorgeous on the surface, but...
definitely 11 on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yes, but what she has to say to him in the bedroom, in the hotel, is serious stuff. So I'm going to say it's a better serious film than I think it really is a comedy.
And now we go to a movie that is supposed to answer the question, can Farrah Fawcett Majors really act? And you all remember Farrah Fawcett Majors, the Charlie's Angels with the great teeth. She became a superstar on TV and in the poster shops, and now she's made her first movie. It's a thriller called Somebody Killed Her Husband, and I hope you won't think I'm giving away too much of the plot if I reveal that somebody does kill her husband. Right. It happens while she's upstairs with a new guy she's just fallen in love with, played by Jeff Bridges.
We have, spectators.
Should we take a bow?
Oh, let's just wave with casual abandon.
Hello, how are you?
Oh, that's 6.
6 what?
People who know about us are guests, not counting strangers.
Now, if they each tell 2 of their friends, it'll make... It's Preston.
7.
I hope we can manage to manage. The freezer was just delivered this morning, but I think we've got something.
Do you really want to divorce him and marry me?
Yes.
I'm here to talk to you.
Well, then we might as well go down there and tell him. When the other guy leaves...
No, I can do it after you leave. I mean, I've wanted to do it before. I just never fly back and do it now.
Why should you do it alone? We're together. This is going to be awkward as hell, but we're going to manage it.
Well, look at it this way, Gene. At least from here on in, it won't be adultery. Anyway, they're in a pretty tight spot because a lot of people are going to suspect them of the murder, so they decide to find the killer themselves. But then the movie evaporates into an investigation that's silly and slow-paced and all too obvious. And as for the question of whether or not Farrah Fawcett Majors can act, let's put it this way. She can scream, and she can cry, and she can gasp, and she can moan, and she looks great, but the movie doesn't give her a chance to do much else.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think the reason why this picture's so deadly dull is that they stop the relationship between Jeff Bridges and Farrah Fawcett Majors and just go and follow this mystery, which is really obvious and slow-paced and not very exciting.
For example, compared to the earlier picture we looked at, Death on the Nile, I think in this one you do figure out who did it, and so it takes away a lot of the suspense. Okay. Last year, when Farrah Fawcett Majors made her first movie, which was called Somebody Killed Her Husband, one critic called it a Yankee movie because Farrah was yanked here and then she was yanked there. It's a plot that called for her to do very little, actually, in that movie, except be yanked through it. But I guess that was basically a fairly accurate review. But now Farrah's second movie has come along, and I basically like it a lot better. It's called Sunburn, and Farrah stars as a woman who's hired as a private detective's paid companion. Now, her job, provide a cover by pretending to be his wife while he tries to steal some incriminating letters.
Wait! Wait! Oh, my God.
Anyone asked, I was here all night.
What happened? Is somebody after you?
Maybe Ortega. I think the suit fooled him.
You look awful. Why don't you have a cup of coffee and sit down? Are you okay?
I'm okay. I'm okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Look, I know I'm not an expert. Are you sure you're going about solving this case in the right way?
You serious? Ortega's papers. They show that Thorne was being blackmailed, and now that he's dead, they're trying to do the same thing to Mrs. Thorne.
Are you sure? I mean, can you prove it?
Prove it? Get me some towels. I need something a little more conclusive. But if I get it, it'll be worth $500,000.
$500,000? You're paying me $500 a day and nearly getting me killed?
Plus expenses.
You really are a rat.
I thought this was a good deal for you. You get a bonus.
It's not just the money. Now, what kind of man dresses up in a spooky suit like that and spends the night with another man's wife just to steal some papers?
Me. That's why I'm considered the fourth best guy in the business at this stuff. Could you make me some breakfast?
No, I wouldn't fix you some breakfast. Why don't you fix it yourself? Do you have any idea how old she is? I would say she was at least 40. Probably still taking those change-of-life pills just to keep it going.
There must be some pills.
You're disgusting.
It was Charles Grodin as her husband, and he claimed there that he was the fourth best detective in the business, but he bumbles his way through the movie while Farrah saves the day, and she often saves it, I perhaps ought to add, while wearing costumes that help explain why the movie is titled Sunburn.
How you doing?
Yeah. What can I do for you, pal?
Oh, my wife tells me you gave her a little scare out in the water.
She's daydreaming, pal. Lots of broads would like me to give them a little scare in the water.
Yeah, I'll bet they do. Yeah. This really the guy?
Well, I thought it was, but, maybe he just thought I was somebody else. Come on, let's go.
Oh, excuse us. Probably thought you were somebody else. Oh, yeah, you were somebody else. Where is he? Where'd he go? Where'd he go? Would he take off?
Yeah. Go. Come on, let's just go.
Would he take off? Big guy. Must have got scared. Big guy, huh? Must have really hit him. Yeah, I used to box, not professionally, amateur, but I never lost a fight. I really took a shot.
She looks better in a scuba suit than most girls look in bikinis. Anyway, Sunburn is light entertainment, and that's basically what it's intended to be. It's not a great thriller, it's not a great comedy, but it does have a nice sense of style, and it has some clever dialogue. And Sunburn also shows that Farrah has a nice, bright screen quality. She looks great in a scuba diving uniform, and what else are you going to ask for, Gene?
Well, I'd ask for a decent script.
I knew you would, yes.
Yeah.
Probably want it to make sense, too, don't you?
It's a mystery, it's a detective story. I think the people who wrote it even knew it was confused because about 2 or 3 times while it's playing, they have to retell the story. Somebody says, now, we did this because of that, we did this because of that. And unfortunately, the film breaks down. For that reason and for one other one, it's hard. Farrah is very compelling visually. I mean, when you see her, you always look to the screen.
Very good, yes. I noticed myself doing that, yes.
Yeah. But she's interrupting things. She's very beautiful. The script makes no sense, so it's an interruption.
I don't know. I think your one problem solves the other problem. This is not a tightly constructed mystery in which you're following the plots like Agatha Christie or something. She's very pretty. It's a movie about a pretty girl. That's one reason to have movies, especially in the summertime. To me, that's good enough rationale for Sunburn.
And all I'm saying is if it had made sense, if it had been a better script, it would have been nicer to look at.
Well, I'm afraid the show is not going to go uphill from here. Remember that crummy movie from last October called Loving Couples, where Shirley MacLaine found out that her husband was cheating on her with a younger woman, and so she went out and decided to have an affair with a younger man. You remember that? Well, for some reason, Shirley MacLaine has made a second crummy movie on the very same subject. It's called A Change of Seasons, and this time, her husband is played by Anthony Hopkins. Hopkins is a college professor who has an affair with one of his students, played by Bo Derekand, and then MacLaine, his long-suffering wife, has an affair with a hippie handyman, played by Michael Brandon. They all pretend to be real, liberated, cool, and open-minded about the whole thing, and in fact, both swinging couples take a winter vacation together in the scene where Hopkins and MacLaine trade nasty remarks while they wait for their lovers.
It's not too late.
You talking to me?
Who else would I be talking to, Adam?
It's not too late.
We could call the whole thing off.
Getting cold feet?
I'm not, but you seem less than joyful.
I've never felt more joyful.
Well, we could go alone, like we usually do.
What about Davy Crockett?
Pete. You'd understand. How about little Lulu?
The name is Lindsay Rutledge. She'd probably be very upset, and because unlike you, she happens to love me.
I love you, too.
You have a very strange way of showing it.
What am I supposed to do? Like Dante, you have somehow moved to a higher circle of paradise.
I get it. Morning! It's for you.
I know.
Good morning. Morning.
Good morning.
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 Cold hand?
I have a warm heart.
You park your Huskies good? Actually, I have a pickup. Hi, come in.
Hello, Karen. Hello.
Lindsay Rutledge, hi.
Lindsay Rutledge. Well, it's so wonderful to meet you.
I've been wanting to meet you for a long time.
Is that a fact? Why is that?
We have so much in common.
What?
Adam.
Yes, Adam is common.
Ha ha ha, very funny.
He's like this in the morning. I'm sorry. Of course, you know that already.
Hi, I'm Pete.
Lindsay Rutledge, hi.
Hiya.
He's very nice.
Him? Sure he is. Terrific.
No four human beings in the entire history of the world, in the entire history of the human race, in that situation ever said anything like that.
Yep.
A Change of Seasons is a completely ridiculous movie in which everybody stands around in the middle of impossible scenes like that one, trying to survive that awful dialogue in one piece. People don't talk like that. This movie is being promoted with a hot tub scene showing Bo Derekand in the nude. Well, that scene is in the first 3 minutes of the film. It is the first 3 minutes of the film, and it has nothing to do with anything else in the movie. All it proves is that Bo Derekand looks great when she's all wet and jumping up and down in a hot tub. Well, since she already proved that she looks great all wet in her first movie, 10, I think it's time she moved on to greater acting challenges.
Well, as you point out, since there's nothing else in the movie, let's deal with that Bo Derekand issue right away. You know, this reminds me of a time I went to a carnival in Indiana, and they had a big sign out in front that said, "The man with the world's largest foot." You walk in, you pay your quarter or whatever it is, there he is, and you walk right out, and bang, it's over before it happens. So people are going to get roped into this picture, see Bo Derekand nude again, it's over in 3 minutes, and you're gone. I mean, this is a classic carnival ripoff. There is nothing else in the film. Shirley MacLaine giggles halfway through this picture. I don't know what's going on in her career. I don't know why she would take a part like this. Anthony Hopkins, since he has nothing to do or a real character to play, you just notice his sotto voce mannerisms. Very bad.
You know what stuck out for me in this movie was the way they desperately tried to give characterizations to these people who had no real existence at all. For example, the Michael Brandon character, he has one speech. His parents were crushed by a semi-trailer truck. Then he moved to the North Woods. Then his family was wiped out by insecticides, you know. Then while we're crying over him, then we get another character, Bo Derekand's father. What do they give him to make him seem like a character? He walks into this swinging weekend with a suitcase full of lobsters. It's just,
Weren't you
it's
stunned?
Totally, yeah, I thought, what's he doing with those lobsters? I mean, it has nothing to do with the scene.
Yeah, these are, again, not real people. A very mechanical movie, just that hello, 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 that kind of thing, not real people.
Let's turn to one of the dumbest movies of 1980, or any year for that matter, a completely idiotic and hapless science fiction would-be thriller named Saturn III. The movie stars Kirk Douglas and Farrah Fawcett as the crew members of a space station circling Saturn, and one day a visitor arrives
and he brings along a robot named Hector, who almost immediately starts roaming up and down the corridors of Saturn III as if he has a screw loose. In this scene, Hector the robot goes berserk.
Hector, put her down. Let her go. Conform. Hector. He'll do what you say. Alex, you ask him.
Hector, please put me down. Why'd you bring him here? Did you teach him to kill?
No. It's you. He wants you. We both do. He's learned too much from me.
Major!
What happened? Major, help me. Major.
Let the robot have him.
That's Harvey Keitel as the bad guy. He wants Farrah Fawcett for himself instead of letting her go with Kirk Douglas. Love triangle beyond the stars. I can't tell you how ridiculous this film is, and I also cannot resist describing how they try to get rid of Hector. Remember in those old Tarzan movies how they dig a hole in the jungle and they put stakes at the bottom of it, cover it up with leaves so the elephant would come along the path and fall through? Well, in Saturn III, they do the same thing. They tear up the floor of the space station, they cover over the hole with flimsy material so that Hector will fall through into a freezing pool of chemicals. And this is one of Farrah Fawcett's big scenes. She stands seductively on the other side of the trap trying to lure Hector to his doom. She says, "Come on, Hector, come on." Just like in the Tarzan movies, you Hector, me Farrah.
Yeah, it's a very, very bad film. There's really no story there, just a bunch of people chasing each other, running. Farrah Fawcett, oh no, oh no. It's like the Mr. Bill show, you know, I mean, it's just really, really stupid. I mean, I don't know what, you know, the only thing that we wait for in this picture is for her to drop the towel that she's wearing around her shoulder. She does it once, big deal. It's not worth the price of admission.
Well, here is a great one. Sparky the Wonder Dog leaping into the balcony to help us pick out the dogs of the week's worst movies.
Well, my dog this week is a rip-off skin flick called Fantasies. It's about 8 years old. The only reason it's being re-released now around the country is it stars a teenage actress named Kathleen Collins, who has since changed her name to Bo Derekand. You may have heard of her. Fantasies is the story of a young woman experiencing growing pains as she is tossed and turned between two men, but who cares about that? The big question is, does Bo Derekand take her clothes off?
Does
yes,
she?
Yes, but she does it only twice, once for a bath and the other time for a brief lovemaking session. And the film is rated R, so it's all quite tame and in soft, fuzzy focus. It's just a miserable film, and you can safely avoid Fantasies.
Thanks for the tip, Gene.
Okay, my dog this week is a hot and bothersome skin flick called 11, an attempt to outdo, of course, the Bo Derekand hit 10. Although the film has a couple of cute lines of dialogue, the majority of the film is predictable, hardcore, bump and grind sex, and the only erotic moments come at the very end when our 32-year-old male hero finds his 11 dream girl and they make love to the tune of the 1812 Overture. Before that, we have to suffer through a lot of very gross scenes, including a couple of people making love in a coffin. So I guess I have to say that 11 is worth maybe 3, maybe 4.
That good, huh? So much for the dogs. Now let's take another look at the main movies on this program.
Both Roger and I thoroughly enjoy the wistful comedy 10, with Dudley Moore going through a change of life. There's a yes next to both of our names. We both recommend you see this movie. It's rated R.
Neither one of us thinks much of Farrah Fawcett Major's movie debut and the dreary murder mystery Somebody Killed Her Husband, and so we both say no to that one. We don't recommend it.
Sunburn starred Farrah Fawcett Majors in a comedy thriller set south of the border. I enjoyed Farrah's style and her looks. Gene thought the movie was a loser, so 1 yes and 1 no. A Change of Seasons stars Shirley MacLaine, Bo Derekand, and Anthony Hopkins in a change-your-partner sex comedy that is incredibly idiotic. 2 very, very strong no votes for that one.
And finally, Saturn III. I think that Farrah Fawcett probably gave the best performance of her life when she was on that poster, but Roger doesn't blame Farrah. He thinks the whole movie is idiotic. 2 strong no's for the dumb space adventure, Saturn III.
Okay, Gene. That's it for this show. Next time on Sneak Previews, Gene and I will review 5 more new movies. We'll have Just You and Me, Kid, a comedy starring the odd couple of George Burns and Brooke Shields.
Endless Love, a drama about teenage romantic obsession starring Brooke Shields. And Tarzan the Ape Man with Bo Derekand in the jungle. Until then, we'll see you at the movies.
Funding for Sneak Previews was provided by this station and by other public television stations.